all for joining us for this session. It's good to see a full house out here. I'm going to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3, and we also acknowledge that this building is situated on land immediately adjacent to the Bow River that has shaped this land and its people for generations. And now I'd like to invite all of our panelists up to the stage. Thank you. So to my far left, we have John Mitchell, Chief Sustainability Officer at Suncor. To his right is Maya Colombani, Chief Sustainability and Human Rights Officer at L'Oréal Canada. And Matt Tuhey, Chief Sustainability Officer and VP ESG and Climate Impact at Modern West. Thank you all for joining me.
Thanks, Karleen.
As we all know, ESG principles have long been a hot topic for us, but in today's climate of geopolitical uncertainty, it's harder and harder for leaders to get energy infrastructure built. We have greater stakeholder scrutiny and higher community expectations. So today we're going to hear from our three experts who have been navigating these complexities, each from a different chair. And honestly, to do justice to their CVs, we would be here for the full 30 minutes. So I encourage you all to go to the website, check out their bios. But for today's conversation, just keep top of mind perhaps that Matt is bringing a career of focusing on sustainability in our sector and now supports companies across the globe with the adoption of sustainability and climate business practices and solutions. Similarly, John has spent his career making change in our sector and now is the Chief Sustainability Officer of one of our largest integrated producers of oil and gas. While Maya works in a similar capacity with L'Oréal, who's the leader of the beauty industry worldwide as she transforms their approach to sustainable development and human rights. So their unique perspectives definitely are going to come out today, and each one of the three of them could spend the full 30 minutes engaging you in a thoughtful conversation. So I'm going to do my best to dive into the topics, keep us on track, and get you out for lunch on time. So with that, let's dive into how companies are meandering and complying in an increasingly complex environment to lead with purpose. First, we're going to set the stage. So ESG in the energy sector. Think of your view on the current state and desired future state of ESG activities in our energy sector. Are we making progress on our ESG goals? Are Canadian energy companies considered laggards, or are we ahead of the curve? Maybe Matt, I'll start with you.
Sure, thank you. Appreciate the question. And I think I'd go, it depends on your perspective, right? So is it a global perspective? Is it a domestic perspective? Or is it an Alberta-centric perspective? Because it's very different, I think. If we zoom out sort of more macro, global level, then I think it's important to recognize that sustainability is still voluntary, right? It's been a voluntary world. And we're moving into more of a mandatory, which is really exciting, under the banner of IFRS. So it's very commendable that Canadian companies have jumped on the voluntary. We've been on that train. When it comes to energy, Faith Burrell, director of the IEAs, often says of Canada that we're an exemplary example of energy transition. We're doing a really good job, but we get in our own way, right? So if we zoom down to Canada, I think there's incredible progress here. Coal transition, we've got a clean grid. Methane abatement has been a big piece of the puzzle here in Canada. Growth in renewables, the list could go on. But on the flip side, we've only reduced less than 1% of our target to 2030 over 2019, and so we've got a long way to go to get to 40% by 2030. So a lot of stakeholders are not satisfied with the progress, right? And I think we saw that in Bill C-59. The lawmakers, I think we saw the frustration because the commissioner of the Bureau actually said, hang on, why don't we pump the brakes here? There could be the need for more consultation. But, you know, they went ahead with the laws anyway. So there's a bit of context. I think we're doing a great job in Alberta. You know, coal transition, growth and renewables, that abatement of methane. We have a real willingness to do it as well, CCS, hydrogen, but we are a target. The emissions are here, so we're a target, right? I think there's a big future value proposition around decarb, right?
John, do you have anything to add?
Oh, probably lots to add. So maybe, sure, I'll start a little bit. I think if I was to step back, oftentimes we look at comparators when you're thinking about where the energy sector is positioned. And one would typically say, well, European energy businesses have been kind of at the forefront. Maybe American businesses have been lagging a little further behind. Canada has sort of occupied that middle as we traditionally do. So we have, I think Matt's spot on, we've been early adopters on disclosure. And I think that's probably one of the more interesting things that that's happening in the sector now is when you had sort of over time these check marks or these accolades for disclosure. And if you were disclosing well, you were deemed to lead. And if you were sort of checking those boxes and whatever the survey was or whatever the information was out there, that was enough for a really long period of time. And I think what we're seeing now is that that's not good enough anymore. There has to be a performance piece to it. There has to be some proof around the claims that are being made. There has to be something there that actually goes beyond just saying, here's my information, but actually shows how we're trying to progress over time, how we're trying to put those plans into action. And a lot of the trend in disclosure is moving in that direction, whether that's deepening your disclosure on risk, deepening your disclosure on strategy, deepening your disclosure on capital allocation. All of those different components are a really welcome trend as we move from what was disclosure often to satisfy a very broad suite of audiences, right from public to employee to community to the financial community, to something that is much more directed at the financial community, and I think is moving more into the securities realm than it is into the sort of consumer protection realm. And so that's, we'll get into that a little bit later, but that's, I think, a fascinating trend to me, is to see how the disclosure has shifted from also just the depth and the targeted audience.
So I just wanted to share, I was at the Climate Week last week. I just want us to have the real talk, otherwise we will lose a lot of time. Even though if it's hurt, whatever we are doing today, it's not enough. The temperatures are still clipping. Our transition energy is not efficient enough, and we are not reaching the scale we should reach. So we are doing a lot of COP, a lot of Climate Week and stuff like that, big events, but we have to coordinate better in order to reach the right scale of transition. So that is my first point. And I include L'Oréal inside. We took our leadership as a responsibility also to contribute for the society. So even though if we have reached 100% renewable energy on all our sites in L'Oréal Canada and 91% of our sites in the world, we have a lot of difficulties to decarbonize the Scope 3 because it's not easy to control what we do not control, which means all our ecosystem and stuff like that. So when you ask where we are not fast enough, and we don't have the right scale we should have. First point, personal point of view, but also scientific point of view. And the second point, in terms of Canada, Canada have everything to win this battle. You have amazing technology, amazing talents, amazing startup. So for example, for biomaterial, we are supporting Evoco, which is a startup in Montreal. You have amazing new technology in place, and we should use it and scale it. And what we were discussing together, what is really different is on sustainability, everybody is okay that we have to go faster. It's not a polarizing thematic or topic. If you compare with Brazil or United States, it's a kind of political point of view. In Canada, people welcome to be more sustainable. So the point is to coordinate better, to go faster in this transition. So we are not going faster enough, but Canada can be the winner and the leader on it. But we have to coordinate all together to go faster in this energetical transition and going beyond just the energetical transition, regenerate nature and protect indigenous rights because they are the best guardian for biodiversity and climate.
Thanks, Maya.
Thank you.
And perhaps maybe we'll shift gears a little bit. I know in the first 5 minutes we've already talked about Bill C-59, which I was wondering if we'd get through 5 minutes without talking about it. To be honest, when I was preparing for the panel, I thought this might be the elephant in the room, the metaphorical, tough conversation that people tend to avoid. But I know all three of these panelists do want to talk about it. It's something that they're passionate about. So just a level set for everybody's, make sure everyone's on the same page. June 20th, 2024, my apologies, the bill took effect, bringing significant changes to the Competition Act, including new explicit provisions targeting misleading environmental benefit claims. It's a big shift in our laws. So first question perhaps, why did we need it? Maya wants to jump in. You can see it.
We talked this morning about trust. We have to regain the trust. Today, people are not trusting neither politics, neither private sector. So more we will be transparent, more we will rebuild the trust with people and the society. So this law is really amazing because she pushed the company to disclose what she is doing. So for example, if you took at L'Oréal, nobody asked me or asked us to be perfect. What the people are asking us is to be concrete with number. I decreased by 21% my CO2 emission from transport. And you ask me to be authentic, not to be perfect. You know that it will not be the easy road, but you ask me to be authentic. So the era of communication, greenwashing, and overselling a small initiative is over. People want the authenticity and want people that truly commit and disclose what they are doing. And we have to give back the power to our consumer, to the society, to choose us or to boycott us. So that is really important. So I think this law is perfect to build trust and to push us to go faster and to share best practice all together.
So maybe on the sharing topic, I'll turn to you, John, and maybe you can speak to how the energy sector in particular has responded.
Sure. Well, I think as anybody that's had a chance to look, the response was quite dramatic. And just maybe to clarify a couple of things. One is, firstly, do we need greenwashing laws and making sure that environmental claims are supported with evidence? Absolutely. There isn't a person in this room or there isn't a person in this business that would disagree with that. And in fact, we had robust laws, as L'Oréal will know, being in the products business, around products for a long time. We've also had laws around not making false or misleading claims for a long time. What this law was attempting to do was add some clarity around how to interpret climate messaging and other environmental messaging with respect to the claims of businesses. So there's a difference between a product claim and the claim of a business. And so those claims of business were what has caused all the confusion. And so what was an attempt to try to clarify rules and interpretation has actually just introduced an incredible amount of confusion. And so the energy sector, ourselves in particular, we've been reporting on sustainability and climate for 25 plus years, so we did not take the decision lightly to have to pull down some of that for a period of time until we could get some of the clarity because of the strength of the potential penalty. And it's not that we have stopped any of the work that we're doing or felt that we couldn't defend the information that was out there. It was how much time and energy do you want to put into being the precedent-setting cases in court, going through that exercise. Quite frankly, it's a distraction. It's a waste of time from the things that we need to be doing in order to drive the action forward, the commitments, the things that we're trying to do to improve performance. And so to put in place a law that basically says you should be really careful about talking about ambition. Really? That's what we're doing? We're now being careful about talking about ambition? What are we going to accomplish if we can't talk about ambition? If I knew I could achieve everything that I thought I wanted to achieve, well, that'd be pretty incredible, but it's not the way this works. It's not the way innovation works. We have to be able to have ambition. We have to be able to disclose that ambition. So quite frankly, we just need to clean this thing up so that we can move on with beginning to have the conversations that we need to have so that we can continue to make some progress because, as Maya pointed out, we're not making it as fast as we need to.
Matt, maybe if you could speak a little bit to the motivation that companies need, but also the discipline. And I think that's part of this bill. It had a little bit of motivation, but also it has the discipline and what that balance means. And how are you seeing your clients react to the bill?
Very mixed. To John's point, there's, it's been a Monty Python moment for the energy sector, I think. We interrupt this program to annoy you and bring you something generally more irritating, right? And I think that holds for a lot of the energy sector. But the reactions have been very mixed. There is that general uncertainty around reverse onus, private action, how to substantiate a claim. It's very vague, right? So I think that's across the economy, and we're seeing that in the consultation responses. But there's a lot of companies standing behind their disclosure, and I do commend that. People have put out statements saying, yes, we don't agree with some of these laws, and we hope they can get shored up. But we back up our claims, and we go to great lengths to substantiate them, and we're firm. We're solid in that. And I'm not trying to pick on John or Pathways, but there is that trust.
It's okay, Matt, you can do that.
There is that trust piece, right? It's a big piece of the puzzle. We report on sustainability metrics to close a missing piece of the puzzle on value for companies, right? Non-traditional value creation has a great link to value creation, right? And so, because I believe in business, I don't like to see trust eroding in business. So the green hushing is it's such a shame, it is a distraction right now. John made a great point. We need so much ambition to get to net zero, right? We need bags of ambition. I'll stop there, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I think, Maya, you mentioned it as well. Can you speak a little bit to the ability to fail? So I do think the ambition countered with the regulatory requirements or the reporting requirements, there's a balance, and some companies perhaps are pulling down their disclosure because the consequences of failing, one of those metrics that you're trying to put out there, one of those lofty goals that we need, John, to make big change. But what happens when we fail, and what's the risk-based decision around what do we disclose around that failure? And Maya, I know you've got a passion for this, and Matt, you as well, so if you want to chime in too.
I love that, the right to fail. I always say when you work for sustainability, you are officially and constantly incompetent because sustainability is always moving forward and getting more complex. Everything is interconnected. Biodiversity, climate, poverty, gender inequality, and everything. So if you want to move fast enough, you have to take risk, you have to cooperate, which means you cannot control what is not yours, so you will fail a lot. And I have so much story of failure. So when I try 10 different technology, for example, for transport, maybe just one will work significantly. But one more time, what I feel when I explain what we do in L'Oréal, people doesn't expect L'Oréal to be perfect. They expect us to be serious. So we are failing in terms of getting fast enough, but we are truly transforming. So today, for example, I have 62% of natural ingredients. My target is 95. Yesterday, it was less than 50%. So it's not a story of perfection, it's a story of progression. So we constantly fail to reach the right level of ambition. And people trust more people that truly fail, because when they succeed, they can believe in you. So the right to fail is really important, especially in this category of sustainability. Otherwise, we will never take the risk and adopt the new technology will help us. So please fail, fail, fail again and again, and maybe one day you will succeed. But the point is to never give up. At the end of the day, it's to never give up and gain scale.
Feels like if you're not failing, maybe you're not trying hard enough. Eh? Maybe, Maya, just sticking with you for a second, John, you mentioned product claims. What could the energy sector learn from product claims? That you must have dealt with this your entire career in the beauty industry. And how do you mitigate against that, but still be bold?
For me, what was bold is when my CEO decided to put sustainability at the center of our business and commit publicly to reach very bold targets. 95% of natural ingredients, 100% carbon neutrality for all our sites, 100% of renewable or recycled plastic. It's bold. And when he targeted it, it's what you say. Having big ambition, we managed to make it happen. And we are not so far from our target. So for the energy sector, I will say be bold and be public of what is your true target. And if you don't reach it, I think people will be okay with it, but you have to be authentic with your ambition and try to make it happen. So it should start at the top, should be public, and should be with number. And you have to give back to the society where you are today. Be bold and authentic.
Perhaps a tough question, because we have different sectors represented here, but do you believe Bill C-59 has targeted the energy sector fairly or unfairly? John?
Well, I think, so a couple of things. One is the energy sector is under scrutiny around its claims, around its net zero claims, around its activity, and rightfully so. We are a big emitter. We have a lot to do and a lot of roles to play in the energy transition. And so there is a desire to make sure that we're trying to live up and we're actually allocating the capital. We've got the plans in place to try to meet the targets that we've set in the past. So there's an absolute appetite for that, and there should be. The question is, how can we align around something? So let me step back and talk a little bit about net zero. Net zero has been an incredibly important concept globally to mobilize effort and to accelerate action. I don't think anybody can deny that. So when different sectors are saying, well, yeah, I can buy into that. I want to try to do that. I'm committing to that as well. They may not know how they're going to get there. They may not have the plan in place. Does it mean that there shouldn't be the ambition? No, absolutely, there should be the ambition. But if I'm using a term net zero, and you're using a term net zero, and we disagree on what's necessary in order for us to accomplish that, that's okay, that's healthy. But what has happened is that's actually been regulated out now. We can't have that disagreement. We can't have a different view on what's necessary to get there. And that's not how we're going to progress. It's allowing that debate, allowing that discussion, allowing people to challenge my plan on how to get somewhere so that it can get better. That's the kind of thing that we need. It's not the kind of thing we should be stifling. And that's what the bill does. Whether that's targeted against the energy sector or broadly, others will comment on that. You can go and read the Hansard reports if you want to, put yourself to sleep, quite frankly. But it does show that there was a fair bit of attention on the sector around the bill. And if we're trying to work together, if we're trying to come together to achieve some progress, bring on the scrutiny, bring on the attention. Let's roll up our sleeves and figure out how to get it done. If it's just about trying to silence a very active voice in the country, well, then I think it's becoming the distraction that none of us want.
Matt, do you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, I feel like we need to put a bit of a positive spin on greenwashing. I mean, it is happening internationally. There's rules all over the world now. And so obviously we don't know how these greenwashing rules are really going to play out. And I would hope the opportunity set is to build much more discipline around sustainability within organizations. And I think that's of great need to companies as we move into a pretty uncertain future. But also I think that potentially rules are put in place to protect companies from blind spots, right? And so we have a lot of future risk coming at us. And let's be honest, when it comes to companies in capital markets, this system is short term. It thinks short term. It's quarter, right? And so, we do have that longer term blind spot. Obviously, we don't know on this greenwashing rule. It's a bit of a mess right now. But I hope, if I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, it does protect companies. Because I've been through coal transition with TransAlta, and we had it come federally, provincially, and we had an industrial carbon price, went from 20 to 30 bucks. And it devalued the company from 24 bucks to 2 bucks. And let me tell you, I'd never want to see that to another company again, because people work in companies, people lost jobs, people make up communities, and communities are impacted, right? This is what we want to avoid. So I think there's potentially some positive to this. It's messy right now. It's going to be bumpy.
Thank you.
Maybe just a quick build on Matt's point. I do think there is a lot of positive that can come out of this. It's a conversation that needed to be surfaced. So while we're going to have a rough road along the way, it's a conversation that's important. The second thing that I think is going to shine a light on is the importance of the regulated disclosures that are emerging in the security space. Now, that's not going to solve everything, because there is this adequacy provision. In other words, do you think that term means the same that I think? And disclosure is not going to fix that. But in terms of what constitutes a robust plan or a robust disclosure around risk or a robust disclosure around strategy or around capital allocation, that kind of clarity will help in this space. Won't solve all the problems, but I think that trend in and of itself will be a positive one as well.
Thank you. And as I suspected, we've already run out of time. It did not work in ITCs, because I know John would also love to talk about that came in place and it came into with the bill as well.
Well, the quick thing on that one, Karleen, is that Bill C-59 that brought this bill in also brought in the investment tax credits. I would have way rather spent the last half hour talking about the investment tax credits that came in with C-59 than the other parts of the bill.
But maybe just 30 seconds each. Do you have a piece of advice to leave the audience with around leadership in decarbonization? Matt, we'll start with you.
Well, I mean, I'll go straight just to sustainability. That's my wheelhouse. Having lived and breathed it and built it within companies and worked pretty tirelessly at it. When you do that, when you educate, when you build motivation, when you build systems, processes, procedures, when you set targets in the right areas and you action on those and you have progress, it starts to live and breathe in every corner of the organization. And you think about risk differently, you think about opportunity differently, that flows up, it changes culture. There is a huge intangible value to that. So, I'll just leave you with that. And I do want to say hello to my children who are here, McKinley and Hunter. Love you guys. Nice to see you.
Hey. Maya.
Me, I will come back to the word responsibility. We all belong to the 1% of the planet, and the people who have the right and the power to decide with who they marry, to express freely. We have the power to change our corporation, to influence our society. So what we do with this power, and I will invite each one of us to do what we should do, fighting against poverty, gender equity, defossilize the energy, and regenerate nature. And I've been inspired by this quote from Sanna Marin, hope into action. It serves nothing to have hope and being optimist if you don't use it for something bigger than you. So whatever you believe in, whatever is your ambition, make it concrete and scale it up. And nobody asks you to be perfect, but everybody waits for you to be authentic. So having the right level of ambition, be a hacker for good, for your society, for the future you want to give to your children, and taking care of your country, because Canada is a beautiful country. And when you love it, you take care of it. So you defossilize, you take care of your ocean, you respect indigenous community, and you do not let the inequality getting bigger. So power for good.
Thanks. And John, last words.
I think I might just build a little bit off of Peter Terzakian's talk this morning, and all of us that are working in this space or exposed to this space, we do have the duty to try to simplify the complex, but the key is not to oversimplify the complex. And so we've got a very dynamic system here of carrots and sticks. We need to understand the carrots really well. We need to understand the sticks really well, because if we don't, the sticks break and the carrots rot.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. I hope everyone was able to take away a few nuggets from the conversation. Thank you to all the panelists. And just a reminder to everybody, it is the lunch hour. There's some lunch right outside this door, or there's some food trucks in the parkade as well, or parking lot. And programming starts back here at 1. So see you then. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.